Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another story time. We're getting hit with a really bad wind, rain, and thunderstorm right now. So upstairs, you can hear like everything outside, and I just figured it would be a major distraction when I was trying to record, and that's all you guys would hear. So I'm doing it from down here in my really creepy basement. I'm gonna get this video done as fast as I can, but I definitely wanted to update with another story time for you guys today. So today, since I am in my creepy basement, I figured I would treat you guys with a paranormal story time. And this one does not take place in this house. I am not going to be talking about this house in my creepy basement while I'm alone during a storm. But what I am going to talk about is an encounter that some of my friends and I had probably about 10 years ago now, over the summer between when I went away to college and most of my friends either got jobs or they went away to college too. We did a lot of traveling. We basically just did like a lot of driving around like all day, hanging out. Sometimes we like hit up the malls and whatnot. But what I did with one of my best friends, Andy, at the time was just lots and lots of driving. We would get in the car and we would just drive for hours, and it didn't matter where we ended up. But this location, we actually went back to a few times. I don't know why. We're weird. We look for things like this, and we really shouldn't. We came across a really tiny little town that connected two bigger towns. Surprisingly, both of the towns that this connected were college towns. The one was more or less like a community college town. It was pretty quiet for the most part, but there were a lot of college kids there. The other town was a bigger college town, and it was more like the hippie scene, like that sort of stuff. And there was like a lot of metaphysical shops and things like that there. So we used to hit that town up a lot because there were tons of restaurants, lots of little shopping areas, and it just was like booming at the time, especially in the summer because there was so much to do. So the one day, instead of taking the main highway, we decided to just drive through like the small towns that were connecting it. And I remember when we were turning off, there were like a lot of mountain roads leading to this little small area. And I had told Andy, because he was driving at the time, I was like, these roads seem really dangerous. Like there are a lot of sharp turns. The roads are really narrow, but there really weren't a lot of cars coming through there. But I still told him, I was like, I feel like these roads are not safe. They're really narrow and we just need to be very careful. So we end up getting to a fork in the road. If you went right, it took you to old mining areas. And if you took a left, it was basically the road that would take you out to the main highway so that you could go to the other town. So of course we went left, but as we pull up to the fork to make our decision, there's a sign that is written in like symbols. It's not any language that I've ever seen before, but it was like all these weird symbols and an arrow pointing to the left. And I remember looking at Andy and I was like, does that look like any language that you've ever seen before? Like it wasn't any script that I had ever seen. And he's like, no, that's nothing I've seen before either. It's very strange. So we were joking. We're like, oh, maybe the aliens came and left it because, we were like just 18 and crazy. So we turn left and we start heading towards this little town. As we're driving, I start realizing that this is an area where a lot of the man-made caves are. Certain towns in this area, I believe it was back during like the Cold War where everybody was panicking about like if we were going to get bombed and things like that. They built man-made caves that were supposedly like bunkers for people to hide out in, and a lot of like government paperwork are hidden down in these bunkers. Supposedly, this is what they say. Well, there are a lot of natural caves in this area as well, but a lot of these were man-made caves that are like sealed off, or you need special like government access to get into because of the documents that are hidden down there. Again, supposedly. So we start driving through and I'm pointing a few of them out. I can see like in the distance. And I was telling Andy, I'm like, oh, those must be some of the caves that like my dad used to tell me about when I was younger. And I always thought that like he was crazy and just making stuff up. But apparently there really are these man-made caves there. So a lot of them I could see out across the water. There was like a collection of water. I don't know if it's not a lake, it's not a river, it's not a pond. I don't know what it is, but it's just a big body of water that's like collecting out there. The entire place always reminded me of like the Barrens in it. That's just exactly how it looks with the water and the environment around there. Like that's all I think of every time that I drive past there. Well, I could see a lot of the caves like out past the water, And I was pointing them out to him, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure those are the man-made ones, because the real caves I had explored in one of my geology classes in school, and we never went to these caves, obviously, and they definitely looked a little bit different. You could tell that they were like constructed by people. So we're driving through, and like I said, it's summer, so our windows are down because it was a nice day, and it's warm outside. We don't have the AC on, and all of a sudden, as we start getting into the town, the temperature drops, and it felt like we had the AC on full blast. And I remember Andy was like, did you turn the air conditioner on? I was like, no, it's warm outside. We have the windows down. Like, it's not hot enough to have the air conditioner on, but it's really cold. So I tell him, I was like, well, maybe the cold air coming from the caves, because I remember in my geology class, like when you went to the mouth of the cave, you could feel cold air blowing out. But like I would say to him, I said, those caves are like off in the distance. We wouldn't be feeling the cold air like blowing on you here, but you could feel like full force. It felt like the air conditioner was on blowing on you. It was getting really cold. So we keep driving and we hit the town. Now the town is really just like 3 houses. The first house that we approach, this is the house that really, really scared us and is what sparked this story. So we start pulling up, and it's a really pretty house. It kind of looks similar to the style house that I live in, where there's like an upstairs, obviously like a basement, and like a living area with a big, nice wraparound porch. So we start pulling up, and on the side of the porch, we see what looks like a woman standing there. Andy's driving by, and I saw it like out of the corner of my eye, and I was like, Andy, there's a woman like standing over on the porch, but it looks really weird. Like, she looks weird. So he slams his brakes on, and now he's like freaking out, and he's like, I didn't see a woman there. What are you talking about? And I was like, no, I swear I saw like a woman on the porch. So of course he turns his car around, and back then he had this really big Oldsmobile that was like massive, that could really barely make these kind of turns, especially on these narrow roads. But here he is, he does it. We almost hit the rock wall that's over there. We drive past the house really slow, and I was right, there was a woman standing on the porch. Now, obviously it wasn't a real woman. It was either a statue or something, but it was like full scale to a person, and it looked really real. But it looked really real to the point that it wasn't alive, and it almost looked like somebody like stuffed a body and stuck it out on the porch. And Andy screams, and like so loud when he sees this thing. And he's like, what is that? Like, what is that? And I told him, I said, it looks like a woman, but it's not alive. It's not a real woman. It's something outside, like maybe a giant doll or something. And from this moment on, we dubbed this Dead Lady, and that house was Dead Lady's house because, like I said, it literally looked like somebody stuffed a corpse and stuck it out on their porch. It was really, really creepy. And it was like staring out like where the cars are, but it felt like it was actually watching you. That's what was so creepy. And I really can't explain it, like, other than it literally felt like somebody was watching us. And he had that same feeling because, again, he turns his car around. At first he was going to pull in their driveway, and I was like, do not do that. Like, that's creepy. And then if you see it closer, you're really going to freak out. Like, let's just go. So he turns around again in his big car, and we start driving back where we have to go. And as we're driving by, I turn and look, and I didn't notice this the first time. Every single window in this house, from top to bottom, had dolls in them that were like looking out at the road. And I had said to him, I'm like, this is really creepy. That house is really creepy. Let's keep going. So the whole way there, now he's talking about like the movie Dead Silence and Mary Shaw and how this is Mary Shaw's house. It's Dead Lady's house. It's all this stuff. And he's like, why are there dolls in every window? Why is this like looking like a stuffed corpse standing out on the porch? At the same time, remember, all this cold air is blowing on us. So he's freaking out, and he's like, this place is haunted. This land is extremely haunted. That's what this cold air is from. We keep driving through the town. We passed 2 more houses. One of them was completely boarded up and everybody had left. And the other house was like set back a little bit farther off the road, so we really couldn't see it. All I could really tell is they had a pond in their front yard, and that was about it. As we keep going, we know that there's like a tunnel and bridge that we have to pass under in order to get out to the main highway. So along the way, we're passing more and more of these man-made caves, only this ones are like closer to the road. So it's getting really, really cold in the car. So Andy rolls the windows up and he's just like, no, it's getting way too cold. And at this point, I know that the cold air is coming from those caves. But remember, it was cold before. So now, with the extra coldness from these caves, it's really, really cold in the car. And he told me, he's like, it's like rolling down the windows in winter. And I agreed, that's exactly what it felt like. So as we're going, you can see more of that water source that I told you was like out in the back, lots of rock walls, more of those signs written in just those weird symbols. And there were a few trailers off on one side of the road. All of them were boarded up and abandoned. And there was like a baby carriage that was like tipped over, just thrown out on the lawn. And I looked and I'm like, this is really, really creepy. Like, it looks like a lot of the houses and things that were there, like people just upped and left and abandoned. And as we keep going, again, there's more, they were more like mobile homes, but all of them were abandoned. And I kept saying to him, I'm like, where did these people go? Like, why would they just up and leave? Because it wasn't like one or two were abandoned. Like, everything was abandoned here except, like I said, those two houses. And that one that was like up the road that we really couldn't see, I don't know if that house was abandoned or not. Maybe people weren't living there either, but the only house that seemed like it was lived in was Dead Lady's house. So we leave this area, and what's really weird is it was getting dark really fast. And I think a lot of it is because we were on the mountain and the sun was kind of sinking behind like the hills, but it was getting dark really quick. So Andy's like, you know, it's really cold, it's getting dark fast, our car is probably going to break down, and we're going to be stuck here, and we're going to have to go to Dead Lady's house, and she's probably going to kill us, she's probably going to skin us, she's going to turn us into dolls, something really crazy like that. And I'm telling him, like, no, you're fine, like, just keep going, we have to just get under the tunnel, get out, then we're going to be by the college town where everything is lit up, everybody's partying all night, we're going to be okay. So we start to see that the water source is ending. So Andy was like, all right, maybe this is the end of it, maybe everything is done. But right at the end there's a giant gate with like warning, like do not enter signs all over. So I turn and I look and I was like, I wonder what that is. Because I knew there was like a transfer station that was down in this town. So I said, well, maybe this is near the transfer station. But no, there were all these signs like warning, do not enter private property. And as we go by, I turn and look, expecting to see the transfer station. But what it was it was a gated private community, and you had to have like special access to get in there. And all of those weird symbol signs were like all over the gates. And I said to Andy, I turned and looked at him and I said, that's what it is. It was for this gated community. I said, they're probably like a cult, something really, really creepy, because why are they living out here where there's nobody around? There's nowhere to go shopping for like miles either. Like, it's literally in the middle of nowhere on the side of this mountain. And Andy took one look and he's like, yeah, that's probably like a cult, or they're probably associated with Dead Lady, and they probably take people in like us who are stupid and take this back road instead of taking the main highway, and probably are like cannibals and eat us and all this crazy stuff. So we keep going, and thankfully we see the entrance to the tunnel. In years going forward that we have gone through this area, the tunnel looks exactly like, if you've ever played the Slender Man game, that one part where you have to walk through the little tunnel to pick up the one note, it looks exactly like this tunnel. Of course, Slender Man wasn't out yet then, but going through there, regardless, was really creepy because the entire tunnel was dark. There were no lights in there. So the only lights as you're driving through are your car's headlights. And Andy's like, with our luck, the headlights are going to go out. We're not going to see anything. People are going to jump us. We're going to die. But thankfully, we got through the tunnel and we ended up getting to the main highway out of there. There were like a few more sharp turns up the mountain, but there were more houses on that side of the tunnel. Obviously, people that actually were alive and didn't abandon them. And then we made it to the town and had a really nice day. But when we went home, we definitely did not take those back roads because it was dark and because we didn't want to see what it looked like at night. So in future years, I did end up going back because I wanted to see what it looked like. And I ended up taking my little brother, I took some of my friends, and I took my one girlfriend at the time. And a lot of the creepy factor has diminished. The houses are still all boarded up. There definitely is that coldness in the air still. And Dead Lady's house is still there with all the dolls, with the like corpse lady on the porch. I always like to take everybody and kind of freak them out. Now, the only time that we went back that I will mention is My girlfriend at the time, I took her through there because she was always interested in like creepy paranormal stuff or just like things that were like dark and scary. So I was like, well, I know a place that's really creepy. Like, why don't we go there for the day? I'm like, it's a little bit of a ride away, but it'll be worth it. So we start driving and we get to the start of the town where you can see the water and you can see the caves off in the distance. And my girlfriend at the time, she was very connected to paranormal stuff. She could sense a lot of things nearby. She used to get really sick from being around things that were supposedly haunted or certain places. Like, I feel like she could sense things. Like, if we went to certain areas that I knew had a history of supposedly being haunted, I didn't even have to say anything to her, and she would tell me she felt really sick or that something was wrong, and she's like, I don't like the land here. I don't like the land. So we got there, and I didn't mention anything about like what I had seen or anything else, but she told me right away, she's like, I'm really cold. Now, granted, our windows were up, but she's like, I'm really cold all of a sudden, and something just doesn't feel right. And she's like, I feel really, really, really sick. So we pass Dead Lady's house, and the feeling gets worse. And we just keep going, and we start seeing like the abandoned buildings. And she's like, I don't like this land. She's like, there's something here that is not okay. There's something on this land that's not good. And she's like, we need to leave. We need to leave right now. And I had to turn my car around. We didn't even get to make it to the tunnel to see like everything else that was out there and show her like the gated community. We actually had to turn the car around, and I had to pull off at one point because she actually did get physically sick. And she's like, I don't know what is there. I don't know what is on the land. I don't know what this land was. But she was like, I don't feel comfortable here, and it's definitely not safe. There's negative energy here. Something's very wrong. So I haven't been back there since. That's probably been about 2 or 3 years. But part of me kind of wants to check it out again, just to see what is there, what is out there now, if anything has changed, maybe if other houses have gotten built up in the meantime on this land, or the ones that were there were like actually torn down, and if Dead Lady is still chilling. But that brings me to the question of this video. There are a lot of areas near me in driving distance here in New York that have a history with either lore or are known to be haunted or thought to be haunted, or just really, really, really creepy places where people would go hang out that people made up stories about. And I can get to all of them. They're pretty nearby, and they're places that I sometimes drive through very often and just like to go through to scare myself sometimes. So basically, wrapping this video up, my question to you is, would you be interested if I did videos actually going to these locations and filming what they look like so you guys can see them, and so I can talk about them while I'm out there and like at least just cover like the lore or like what people talk about and what like the stories are that people say, and then you can make judgments for yourself. That's up to you guys. If you're interested, please let me know in the comments below. Like I said, I do travel to these places sometimes, but if you're interested in actually seeing them and having a video where you actually get to watch me go there and see the land for yourself, you can make your own assumptions. It's up to you. So just let me know in the comments below if you're interested in something like that. Other than that, I'm out of here. It is really cold down in my basement. It is really creepy down here. It is really dusty down here. I need some coffee, and I want to go enjoy my Sunday upstairs with my cats, not somewhere where it's really dark, damp, and creepy. So thank you for stopping by and listening to another one of my story times. If you liked it, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more paranormal story times, convention story times, precious publications, and the works. I hope you all have a wonderful Sunday, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.